All right, so good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. Today we will be talking about social determinants of health and the indicators of health and illness. So, this was a continuation of the topic that we had yesterday in relation to CHN1. All right, so um, wherever you are in Region 8, okay, maupay na aga, maing buntag, and good morning. Okay, so there are things that we needed to understand, no, as future nurses, because there are reasons why we cannot achieve optimal health. All right. There are reasons, there are factors why a community seems to be unhealthy, or there are also factors that constitute a successful community program, a healthy living, okay, a healthy lifestyle. And what are these factors? What are these determinants, okay, that would determine, okay, that would guide us, that would give us an idea that this is what a community should be, okay? So that would be our topic this morning: determinants of health and indicators of health and illness. Okay, so all right. So for the social determinants of health, okay, so as you can see in the picture, okay, you can see a home, all right? You can see a dollar sign or coins. You can see a graduation cap. Okay, you can see it's like the hammock that we have in courts. Okay, so it represents the justice system, and then we have nature, we have transportation, and we have a group of people, okay, having a business with each other. Okay, so this represents social determinants of health. Okay, so these factors will make not just our community but our society as a whole, our country, the family, the individual healthy. Okay, so our environments cultivate our communities, and our communities nurture our health. All right, so when inequities are high and community assets are low, health outcomes are worse. Okay, so pag mahirap class na society, no, or pag mahirap na community, um, most likely there would be substance abuse, no, due to depression, HIV, AIDS, because they lack knowledge, right? So their lifestyles as well is not that healthy or ideal. And then there is violence, there is smoking, there is infant mortality, no? Maraming mga bata ang namamatay. There will be malnutrition, there is obesity, there is stress, no? Which could be the number one killer in our community today, and there is depression, and there is heart disease. Now, if you can see, if these are the leaves of a tree seems unhealthy. Okay? Walang kabuhay-buhay. Alright, so systems is fragmented, or when we say fragmented, it is divided, and there's no unity. Okay, and then there is restricted power, there is disinvestment, so investing on the wrong things, on the wrong projects, and then people seem to be disconnected. Okay, di rin nagka-urusa. All right, so you can see in the roots. Okay, what are the root causes of these of the leaves? All right, or what are the root causes of the factors or of the determinants? Okay, poor quality schools, occupational hazards, institutional racism, discrimination, unemployment, marketing for tobacco and alcohol, okay, adverse living conditions, segregation, poverty, and environmental toxins. Okay, so when inequities are low and community assets are high, on the other hand, if a community has assets, if a community is rich, okay, health outcomes are the best, right? So even if you're obese, you're stressed, there are people or there are infants dying, even if there is depression, even if there's substance abuse, even if there's violence, there's smoking, there's malnutrition, there's heart disease, there's HIV and AIDS. But because the community has assets, the community has resources, so then the community can afford. Okay, so there is a sense of community. There is there are social networks, there are social support who can give you the proper advice, proper food. You can go to the best hospitals, and then there is participation within the community. You are not being discriminated, you are understood, you are seen beyond the physical. Okay, things are not superficial. There is leadership that is advocate, or that is an advocate of patients with HIV, for example. So you are not being left off, and the leadership will still continue to provide medicines, medications, and then political influence, and then organizational networks. Okay, so what are the root cause of a healthy tree, okay, or of a healthy environment? So, quality of schools, access to healthy foods, access to healthcare, transportation resources, jobs, clean environment, quality housing, access to recreational facilities, adequate income, and you know, one of the most important things that we don't have here that US has is health insurance. Okay, so we will learn terminologies in this lecture. So, learning a common language, community, health disparities, health inequities, health equity, social determinants of health, or SDOH. All right, so what do we mean, okay, by social determinants of health? Okay, so these are life enhancing resources such as food supply, housing, economic and social relationships, transportation, education, and healthcare, whose distribution across population effectively determines length and quality of life. Okay? So these determinants will give us an idea what will make our lives long. Okay? Long with quality, long that is healthy. All right? So there is a distribution across populations, and we can see later what is the difference between a poor quality of school and a school with high quality. Okay, so community, okay, where you belong, where I belong, where we all belong. Okay, community is a group of people, okay, with a shared identity, including living in a particular geographic area, having some level of social interaction, sharing a sense of belonging, or having common political or social responsibilities. So, um, rich communities, okay, focus on race, ethnicity, and culture. So, we are a community of nurses. We are a community from the Leyte province or from Region 8. Okay, we have the same shared identity. Okay, we're living in a particular geographic area. We are all Filipinos. We are interacting with each other with the same level of social interaction, and it's nice to belong. Okay. Oh, how nice it is to belong to a group of people. Okay. You have a support system, and we have a common political or social responsibilities. Okay. So as a future nurse or as a nurse, you have to be responsible. Okay. You have to be a patriotic Filipino. Okay? Diri ka masiring na, bahala na itira. No? Basta ako mabuhi la. That is not a good Christian. That is not a good nurse. Alright? So, you have to be socially involved and socially responsible. Nurse ka. Okay? So, health equity, the opportunity for everyone to attain his or her full health potential. No one is disadvantaged from achieving this potential because of his or her social position or other socially determined circumstance, distinct from health equality. So, when we say health equity, no, kahit mahirap or mayaman, walang pinagkaiba because there is equity. Okay? Equity meaning to say 8 plus 2 and 2 plus 8. So, if a family is rich and they can afford medications, we will just give them two medications from the government. Okay? And they will provide the aid. Now, to the uh, poor families, we can give them 8 medications, and they might be able to buy the two. Okay, so there's equity. Kung ano ang kulang, yun ang pupunan mo. Okay, so that everyone, no, every person can still, no, regardless of the social status, can still reach a maximum full health potential. Okay, we can still achieve, all right, what our goals are health wise. Okay, so health inequities. Okay, systematic and just distribution of social, economic, and environmental conditions needed for health. Unequal access to quality education, healthcare, housing, transportation, other resources, example, grocery, stores, car seats, okay, unequal employment opportunities and pay or income, and discrimination based upon social status and other factors. Okay, so sometimes there is inequity because, for example, no, in our hospitals today, kung mahirap ka, wala kang pang down, no, the reality is that you cannot be admitted in the hospital. Okay? Pag wala kang 6'5", pag wala kang 8,000, hindi ka pwedeng magpa-swab test sa private hospitals. Okay? So there is inequity, or unequal of the things that we have. All right. So health disparities. Okay, these are differences in the incidence and prevalence of health conditions and health status between groups based on race or ethnicity, socioeconomic status, okay, sexual orientation, gender, disability status, geographic location, and combination of these. Okay, so what is a health disparity? Okay, so for example, okay, there is a baby with Down syndrome. Okay, so and baby with Down syndrome, and then may abnormality in his abdomen or in his stomach. So, kung dun siya ipinanganak sa mayaman na parents, so the parents can afford colostomy, then they can maintain the child, they can buy colostomy bag. Whereas kung dun ka ipinanganak sa pamilya na mahirap, di ba? Mamamatay talaga ang bata because there's nothing to maintain. Wala kang ibili ng gatas sa mga normal na anak, dun pa sa may sakit, di ba? So those are an example of a health disparity. Okay, so comparison of definitions. Okay, so health disparities, it's a difference in the incidence and prevalence of health conditions and health status between groups based on the following. and health and equity, systematic and unjust distribution of social, economic, and environmental conditions needed for health. All right. So, um, let us compare, no, the definitions. So, differ health disparities. Okay, that is the difference in the incidence and prevalence of health conditions and health status between groups. Health inequity, systematic and unjust distribution of social, economic, and environmental conditions. And then health equity, the opportunity for everyone to attain his or her full health potential. Okay, so there's an equal access to quality education, healthcare, housing, equitable pay income, equal opportunity to every resources that we have, and then social determinants of health. Okay, life enhancing resources whose distribution across population effectively determines length, okay, and quality of life. So example would be the food supply, housing, economic relationships, social relationships, transportation, education, and healthcare. Okay, so um, let us discuss. Okay, who does your community include? Who does it not include? Okay? What are the geographic boundaries? What are the cultural and psychosocial experiences of the people in the community? Example, traditions, okay? Social networks, history, representation in the local government, and thus your community have multiple communities within it. Okay? How would you describe these communities? So, what are the relationships between these communities? Okay, so if we're talking about a community, okay, it's just a group of people na iisa lang. It's a group, it's so many groups of people, okay, so many barangays, so many towns, so many provinces, okay, so many group of people, like there are teachers, there are nurses, there are farmers, there are doctors, okay, there are those that stay at home, and then there are students, okay, there are vendors, there are people from the market, so it's a community, okay, and each sector is being represented, and of course we have the government, right? So it's a multiple community within a community. Okay, so health inequities, what social, economic, or environmental conditions affect your whole community? Okay, so example, air pollution, high concentration of fast food restaurants, inadequate public transportation system, and what conditions differentially affect subgroups in your community. Why are these conditions experienced differentially for subgroups of in your community? So, kita, no, didiha Tacloban, we are very lucky because we don't have much of traffic. Okay? Pag kadto nim ha downtown, simple la, maagi ka ha, mga barangay, no, sagkahan, a barangay of lechon, and then you the jeep will go directly to the downtown area, um and then after which doon sa side naman ng Divo. Okay, so it's the city may be big, but it's not as big as Manila or Cebu, where traffic could be real. Okay, it takes a lot of hours waiting inside the car just to go to the places that you want. So you will, if your duty is 6 o'clock in the morning, alas tres pa lang ng madaling araw, gising ka na. Okay, and this affects the community. There is air pollution when there are so many cars. That's why there are countries that proposes or that advocates the use of bike. Okay? And then there is high concentration of fast food restaurants. So for people who lives in the city and who has and who are practicing, okay, an instant life. Everything is instant, from food, all right? And then inadequate public transportation. So sometimes also, we do not have enough buses, we do not have enough jeepneys, and there are so many people, especially like right now, pandemic, um, wala masyadong sasakyan during the start of the lockdown, and everybody has to work. Okay, buti na lang at this point that our communities and our country as a whole has already adapted to the new normal. Okay, so these are part of health inequities. Okay, so what are health disparities? So what health concerns are, okay, experience, what health concerns are being experienced, no, by people in your community, right? Um, Example is obesity, asthma, diabetes, heart disease, and what behaviors, okay, are more or less common among people in your community. So, for example, food and beverage consumption, physical activity, tobacco or substance use, and then violence. Okay? And do these health concerns or behaviors vary by subgroup? Okay? What are the differences? Okay? So, the modern society is, okay, the more that things also are available, okay, siyempre, pag maraming pagkain, left and right, masarap kumain. So, yun, ang Filipino na palakain, nagiging obese. Right? So, kung maraming usok, kung maraming sasakyan, nagkaka-asthma. Kung maraming matatamis na pagkain, and then sedentary lifestyle, yun. Kaya diabetes seem to be like just fever. It's normal in our society in the Philippines. And then heart diseases. Okay, so what behaviors, okay, um, affects, our people? So food and beverage consumption, mas masarap uminom ng Coke kaysa uminom ng tubig. And then physical activity, okay, couch potato, right? Always just watching TV all the time, and tobacco or substance use, and then violence. And do these health concerns or behaviors vary by subgroup? Okay, so social determinants of health, no? So these are the social determinants of health: access to healthcare, access to resources, education, employment, environment, income or poverty, and then insurance coverage, housing, racism and discrimination, segregation, and then transportation. Okay, so for CDC, no, the safer the environment, the healthier the people. All right, so we will now study, okay, the intersection of health, place, and equity. Okay? So there is a relationship between each other. All right. So on the blue circles, on the bigger circles, okay, you can see that there is an interaction, there is an intersection, there is a relationship between the environment that the community is living, between the health status and the equity, okay? The distribution of resources. Okay? And on the outside circles are the determinants. So access to healthy food, health facilities, schools and childcare, community safety and violence, transportation, traffic patterns, work environments, parks, open space, playgrounds, housing, access to healthy food. All right. So you can see that there is a relationship of health, place, and equity. Okay. So let's begin to tackle the social determinants of health and disease. All right, so let's talk about income, and social status. So you can see, all right, the richer a person, okay, the more that she or he has money. So you can see there a lady who is taking a bath with her dollars, all right, and on the other side, it's the paradoxical, it's the um, it's the opposite side of the world, all right. There is a there is a little girl, okay, begging for money, okay. So ano kaya, no, sa tingin niyo, di ba? Um, if the income is high, you can afford, no? You can buy great food. You can buy fresh milk. You can buy fruits, no? You can buy meat. You can buy fish. You can buy salad. Okay? You can buy whatever it is that you needed, and you know most of your wants. Okay, so for example, this is what you want. You go abroad, you earn dollars. So if you have $100, that is already around 5,000 pesos in the Philippines. So marami ka nang mabibili. Okay, so it is also another story if you will be begging for money. Okay, what if sa isang araw walang magbigay ng limos, di ba? And um, if you will go to the supermarket, 1,000 pesos is just a small bill. 1,000 pesos is like a coin. No, it's what you can buy. You're lucky enough if you can buy two bags of groceries with 1,000 pesos. So if you are a beggar, or if you are a person under a low a low socioeconomic status, 'di ba? Isahang um 1 kilo of fish, mahirap na sa iyo 'yon. And 1 kilo of healthy fish, or a fish that is so palatable to eat, cost 400 pesos. Okay? 1 kilo lang ng fish. Okay? Wala pa siyang sangkap or ingredients. Okay? So, magkano na lang? And then, yung nalimos mo, swerte lang kung may nalimos ka na 100 pesos. Okay? So, what can you buy? Saan aabot ang 20 pesos mo? Or saan aabot ang 100 mo? Di ba? As a student, you know that you have to budget your money well, no? Kasi wala ka pang income. So, para sa'yo, a 50 peso, or even to those who work, no? A 50 peso meal is already good, right? So, buti lang kung makalimos ka ng 100. So, meron kang um, pambili ng bigas, 1 kilo. Ilan ang kapatid mo, ilan ang anak mo, and how much is a class A rice, di ba? 50 pesos, mga ganador, mga jasmine rice, they cost more as well. So, if you are only earning 150 pesos a day, kakain ka pa, you know, you have to pay for the transportation. You have to buy your needs. Okay, so there is a difference, class. If the income is good, and if the social status also is not that good. Okay, so next is education. Okay, no, education. So you can see, no, maybe these kids are studying from England, and they study in England, and they have a very beautiful life. They have, you know, they have pencils. Sobra-sobra naman yung biyaya. So they have pencils. They have a quality education. So they have jackets. Their uniforms are well. They are well dressed. kids well mannered as well, and they have sophisticated lives at a young age. So you can just imagine the life of Prince George and Princess Charlotte. Okay, so um, these are schools with complete facilities. Okay, they have snacks. They eat well. All right, so they can focus. Okay, because everything is provided. They have books. They have laptops. They have Wi-Fi in their schools. These kids doesn't have problem with data. Okay, so they can focus with their studies. So on the other hand naman, okay, okay, dito tayo sa magkaibang mundo, no? Education. So, kung sa jeep pa, sikit-sikit la, no? So, they are seated near each other. And then, tingnan mo naman yung uniform. Good thing, may uniform, di ba? At least, para-paraan. And then, they walang social distancing, hindi uso yung social distancing, and then walang libro, buti nga may bag, tapos siguro yung mga baon nito, yung okay lang kung may rice, okay lang liwat kung dried fish, pa yung dried fish, parang lechon na yan. Okay? So, iba din yung motivation no, ng mga bata na from a less privileged uh, community. Okay, so you know yung everyday life, nasanay ka na mahirap. So it's okay to be poor, but it's not okay to remain poor. Okay, so I have been a school nurse for 2 years, and it was very difficult to handle children that came from a poor family. Kasi early in the morning pa lang, no, pupunta na sa clinic, magrereklamo na ma'am, sakit akong tiyan. Pero, um, upon assessment, no, sumakit ang tiyan kasi hindi pala nag-breakfast. Okay? So, walang breakfast. So, a lot of kids class who doesn't eat a good breakfast, no, their learning as well is, it's impeded or it's very slow. Kasi communicate. Okay? Hindi hindi maka-absorb. Okay? Gutom eh. Alright? And then, wala pang mga libro. Wala ang laptop, no? How much is a laptop? Okay? That is very expensive. And how much a parent earns. Okay? So, for you people na you are educated well, you are in RTR, you are very blessed. Okay? Always respect the parents and the people who are working hard to send you to school. Kaya mag-aral kayo ng mabuti because a lot of kids want to become nurses. Okay? A lot of kids want to study in RTR. Okay? They want to be here, but they can't. Alright? So, always cherish your education because education is one of the best things in life that no one can rob you from. Okay, so hindi mananakaw ang education. And I tell you, when you graduate, that's the time when you realize maganda pala pag maganda yung pinag-aralan because you will also get a good um, employment opportunities. Okay? So, physical environment. Okay? So, if you are a traveler, right, it is it feels cool to be with nature, okay, to commune with nature. It feels so great to have privacy. Okay, you're sleeping in an air conditioned room, you are alone. When you open the windows, you can see mountains, you can see the sea, you get to experience, okay, a calm, beautiful physical environment with birds, with trees all around you, no traffic, nothing. Okay, so like it's just it's just so wonderful, Pag maganda yung environment physically, you can just say this is the best life ever. Okay, however, kung Paggising mo pa lang, ang ingay-ingay na. It's very noisy. And then, ang baho-baho ng kanal, ang baho-baho ng bahay, tapos tagpi-tagpi na yero, tapos wala pang makain. And then, um, topsy-turvy, no? Ang gulo-gulo. Okay? It will also affect, like, sige, ikaw. Okay? Can you study in a place na ang ingay? Tapos magsasarapit ang mga balay, magsasarapit ang neighborhood. Di ba parang ang gulo-gulo din ng isip mo pag magulo yung environment? Okay? So it makes you unhealthy. All right. So employment and working conditions. Okay? So you can just see um, on a good employment and good working conditions, di ba? They have laptops, okay? They have wonderful setup, they have tables, they can use the audio visual presentations, they talk professionally, okay, and it seems to be ideal, okay. While on the other hand, syempre if you are a child, for example, na nagtitinda ng um, taho or nagtitinda ng balot, so usapang balot din, okay. So ang hirap, 'di ba? Kasi you have to carry um those heavy pail, okay? Just so you could earn, okay? Kaya nga one time when we had the start of the lockdown, 'di ba? A taxi driver was crying and he said, "Ang hirap maging mahirap kasi wala kang pagkukunan." Okay, so you have to work, but even if you work um hard, still, some things seem to be not enough. Okay? Yun ang mahirap doon. And you only earn also a little. So, if you will finish, okay, your bachelor's degree in 2 years' time, okay, hindi, you are not expected to you are not expected na maglibod lang tahok or balot. Okay? You are expected to apply your knowledge and earn big. Okay, so SG 15, you will already be earning 32,000 pesos per month. Okay? And that's good already. Okay? And then, social support networks. Okay. It's nice to have a family that is loving and sweet. It's nice to have friends, colleagues. Okay? It's nice to have classmates, no? Best friends, people who gets to hug you when you are down. Okay? Social support network. Okay? Even in Facebook, for example, it's nice when you feel better, right? When you post something and people will comment, people will love, people will wow, but you would also feel a little bit irritated when somebody angries your post or um, has your post because these are social support networks. Okay? It makes somebody healthy. It is a healthy community. Pag alam mo may malalapitan ka, okay? You are not alone. Okay? If you have HIV, if you are obese, okay? But still you have a loving community encouraging you to excel, okay? On the other hand, okay? If konting konting ano lang, pagkakamali, away na, no? Um, Plus, gulo-gulo buhay kasi if every day of your life, away yung, away agad yung bang you wake up to arguments, ang ingay-ingay, tapos, um, wala kang malapitan, you feel lonely, okay? Kaya, a lot of people are prone to depression because they get depressed because they have nobody to talk to. Okay, that's why in the BPO industry, you get to talk to old people aged, the age bracket is 60 and above and wala lang talaga silang maggawa sa buhay dun sa US. they would talk to you in hours. Okay, just for the just to alleviate themselves from loneliness. Okay, so iba, no? If the social support, if you have no social support, you would, kaya a lot of people who think and who thought that they were lonely committed suicide. Okay, so yun, social support networks. And then culture. Okay, so iba-iba tayo ng culture. There are so many countries, there are so many continents, and we have different practices. Okay, so a white, a brown, a black person has different culture. Okay, so even Asians, we have different culture. So, for example, if we go to Thailand, okay, they are prone to eating hot or spicy foods. Okay, so kita naman ng mga Filipino, bisan aton spaghetti, di ba? Sweet. Kay mahilig kitahin matatamis. Alright? Iba din yung ibang culture. So, we are who we are because of the culture that we grew up with. So, there are people na normal sa kanila yung individualistic life. Okay? In in the US or in Western countries, if you reach 18 years old, dapat nagtatrabaho ka na, dapat you are already renting your own homes, dapat you have your own cars, dapat independent ka na. Okay, that is culture. While on Asian countries like ours, okay, kahit pa 30 years old, nakatira pa rin sa parents, no? Umaasa pa rin sa parents. So, there are so many things with in terms of culture, and we have different cultures. Okay, so genetics. Okay, so we all know that genes, okay, it is in our blood, it is in our bodies. Now, genes mutates. Okay, there are 46 chromosomes, 23 X chromosomes, and 23 Y chromosomes. So as the genes mutates, okay, an imo lolo side cancer, and then your lolo will marry has married your lola, and your lola has kidney failure naman or diabetes, and then they will have offspring. Now their offsprings naman married people with diseases. Okay? So, magkakaanak din. So, dadami ang sakit sa family tree because the genes will mutate from one generation to the other. Okay, so genetics causes so much change that will also become a determinant of health, okay, and disease. Okay, so mas mabuti lang if you can marry someone with you know, you can marry somebody with long lives, all right? So, ang ganda, 'di ba, ng offspring kasi um healthy man yung kabila. Okay? Healthy yung uh, Y chromosome. Okay? So, na um, hindi na like it's not compromised. So, your there is chances that you will have a longer lives, no? Because the other partner is healthy. All right? Okay. So, personal behavior in coping skills. Okay? So, iba class ang feeling kung ang breakfast mo, you know, you're vegan. You know, vegan people, they just eat salad, they just eat vegetables, they just um, eat the healthy kind of food that they believe. So, whereas, iba naman yung walang nutrition na pagkain. Okay? Sausage lang, pancit canton, noodles, what else? Asin. Words talagang memorize. Okay? So, nutrition also affects the behavior of people. And then, idagdag mo pa yung nagsisigarilyo, okay, tobacco use, and then coping skills, no? poor coping skills. Okay, so konting problema lang, nagigive up agad. Alright, so personal behavior that is personal, that is person to person, that is within you. Okay, and mahirap yung baguhin. Okay, because yun na yun, that is you already. Okay, so sometimes we can modify, but change should be or should come from people. Okay, so, yung behavior mo, yung example, hindi ka gigising ng maaga. Okay? So, dahil hindi ka gumising ng maaga, na late ka sa school. Okay? Kahit online class, na late ka. And then, na late ka pa, hindi ka pa nakakain ng breakfast. Okay? So, it's too personal. It's really you. So, it's up to you to overcome. And you also have to cope because class, the world will not change for us. Okay? We have to adapt, okay, to the everyday changes in our community. All right? So, health services. Okay, so, iba naman class ang feeling kung, um, kahit if you were diagnosed with cancer, but you can afford a tertiary hospital that has a great health services. Okay, so that is an example. The picture class is an example of a presidential suites. Okay, so it's like a condominium. Okay, you can see a building. You have a good diet, or the food that is being presented to you is also seems really healthy. It is being processed by a registered nutritionist, and then it's nice inside, and the price also is nice. Okay, so iba naman yung pag mahirap ka, syempre pupunta ka na lang sa faith healer. How much, 'di ba, magpapakemo ka, 20,000, 70,000 per session. Eh kung doon ka na lang sa faith healer, 70 pesos solved na. Okay, so iba kasi yun lang ang kaya ng family, yun lang ang kaya ng community na yan. So people will turn to faith healing, will turn to hilot instead of going to the proper agencies, okay, in response to giving a quality health service. Okay, so ayun, and what do we have here? Okay, pag pumunta ka sa hilot, um, there are even people who are practicing, it's a malpractice. Okay, operation without license, and then if you go to hilot, you're prone to infection. Okay, and there are just so many things that were a deviation to the scientific nursing and medical practice. So instead na gagaling, okay, nag-worsened ang pneumonia. Okay? So, yun. And we cannot blame them because yun lang yung kaya eh. Di ba? Alright. And then gender. Okay? So, sometimes there are male, people who are more prone to be obese, and syempre, majority also of men, they drink a lot, they smoke a lot, although women also do the same, but it depends on the gender as well, kasi iba naman yung lakas ng lalaki sa lakas ng babae, although there is equality, but in terms of the physiologic components of a woman and a man, there's just so much difference. Okay, so you can see a woman who seemed to be really relaxing, having her yoga or having her stress relieving activities. Okay, so gender has a say when it comes to social health determinants. Okay, kasi magkakaiba yung proponents of being a man and a woman. Okay? Alright, so for the determinants of health, okay, this is me. Socioeconomic factors consist 40%, health behavior 30%, genes and biology 10%, physical environment 10%, clinical care 10%. Okay? So, mas malaki pa rin yung social economic factors. Alright, so place matters. Okay? So, for people, communities of opportunity. Okay? So, these are the people who can afford, these are the people who have the access, to um, to the things that they need. Okay, so they have they can achieve good health status. Siyempre, they can afford vitamins, good education, transportation, hindi din nahihirapan, 'di ba? Yung stress level ba class is iba-iba. Okay, so poor health status contributes to health disparities like obesity, diabetes, asthma, infant mortality, and then i-compare natin sa low-income communities. So, fast food restaurants, liquor stores, unsafe and limited parks, poor performing schools, increased pollution and toxic waste size, limited public transportation, and then our goal would be, having parks para the people can have it's nice to be walking in a park, just looking at the people, just taking some air to breathe, and it takes off your stress away. And you sidewalks, grocery stores, financial institutions, better performing schools, and good public transportation. Okay, so um ang nakaganda lang ngayon is that if we go to, for example, if we go to Metro Manila, they all already have MRT and LRT, and it's quite convenient, although siksikan, pero at least, no, things have become faster. Okay, but I was quite impressed because when I went to Hong Kong, ang ganda, like, they are a very small country, but they have open top bus. Okay, and then it's up and down, and then it's very nice inside, and then it's comfortable, di ba? And their life is very fast, no, they're so modern, but they also have good nature. Okay, so um wala silang jeep doon. Okay, so whereas kung sasakay ka ng jeep, no, dati, 'di ba, na walang social distancing, siksikan. So, iinit ang ulo mo kasi siksikan, mainit, may mga magnanakaw pa sa gilid mo, you don't feel safe, okay? It's unsafe, alright? And then, um, yung nakakainis talaga, yung you have to run from one jeepney to the other, tatakbo ka para ka makasakay. As in, oh my God, di ba? So, yung ganon. So, it helps, or it has um it it contributes to the health of the people, kasi yung stress level mataas, no, especially in bigger urbanized cities na medyo magulo. Okay, so examples of health inequities, so education, infants born to African American mothers with only a high school education were 2 times more likely to die in the first year of life compared to their white counterparts. And then income, we have already discussed this one. So low socioeconomic status that is associated with an increased risk for many diseases, including cardiovascular diseases, and then arthritis, diabetes, chronic respiratory diseases, cervical cancer, and frequent mental distress. Kaya yun talagang araw-araw stressed ka ba? Although nakaka-adapt ka na lang, pero when you come home, you're already drained. Like, pagod na pagod ka te. Okay? Yung gano'n na feeling. And then, access to resources. So, lower income, okay, and racial, ethnic, minority communities are less likely to have access to grocery stores with a wide variety of fruits and vegetables. So, ikaw, gaganahan ka ba mag-grocery kung 100 pesos lang ang pera mo? 'Di ba? So, pupunta ka na lang sa Changi. Baka ano ka doon, makabili ka ng, at least, you get to buy fruits at a cheaper price. 'Di ba? So, diseases and behaviors. So, yun. tuberculosis, asthma, diabetes, infant health problems, lung cancer, pneumonia, and influenza. Poor nutrition. What are the diseases related to this one? Colorectal cancer, okay, diabetes, infant health problems, lung cancer. Physical activity, asthma, colorectal cancer, diabetes, infant health problems. And then physician visits. Okay, so it's nice class to have insurance. In the US, majority of their people have health insurance. So hindi sila natatakot ma-hospital. Tayo, natatakot tayo magpa-hospital kasi wala tayong insurance. Okay? Wala tayong, no one will save us and then ang mahal-mahal magkasakit. Alright? So there's something also that we need to change with our culture. Okay? Alright? So diseases. So yun. We have access to healthcare. We have insurance coverage. So the higher the insurance, okay, um, the better also is the services. Okay, so in the US class, yung infertility nila, they are insured. Those who are um, those who are addicts or those who have alcohol problems or substance users, they have insurance, so pwede sila magpa-rehab anytime they want. Okay, and you know they have a very good um, health program. So you have a counselor, you have a psychologist, you have your own doctor, you have a nurse, and you have therapies. There is group therapy, there is individual therapy. It's very ideal. Okay, and then education, income, housing, transportation. Okay, so ayan. All right. So you can see, no, the um, connection. Okay, so these are the pathways of social determinants to health. Okay, so we have already explained this one a while ago. All right, so type of initiatives: eliminating racial and ethnic disparities in breast and cervical cancer by promoting screening, education, prevention, treatment, and access to care for Black women and women of African descent. Addressing disparities in diabetes education and quality of care by building community capacity, identifying people at high risk for diabetes, offering training and education, supporting health promotion activities, and creating diabetes healthcare centers. And then improving community health by addressing social factors that have been linked to high infant death rates. This include violence, substance abuse, crime, poor nutrition, food security, and lack of community unity and leadership. Okay, so so for the discussion, how are our resources distributed within our community? How does this compare to surrounding communities? And what are the relationships among social determinants, cultural, and psychological? Okay, so 6 ways to talk about social determinants of health. Health starts, okay, long before illness in our homes, schools, and jobs. Okay, so all Americans should have the opportunity to make the choices that allow them to live a long, healthy life regardless of their income, education, and ethnic background. Your neighborhood or job shouldn't be hazardous to your health. Your opportunity for health starts long before you need medical care, and the opportunity for health begins in our families, neighborhoods, schools, and jobs. Okay, so not just Americans, but most um most of us. Okay, and in our case, sana no, sana all, sana ganyan din sa Philippines, because it's just nice that we live with a longer, healthy, quality life. Okay, so now we will be talking about indicators of health. All right, so health is defined as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well being, and not merely an absence of disease or infirmity. Okay, So that is by the World Health Organization. And this statement has been amplified, okay, to include the ability to lead a socially and economically productive life. Okay, so health cannot be measured in exact measurable forms, and hence measurement have been framed in terms of illness or lack of health, consequences of ill health, morbidity, mortality, and economic, occupation, and domestic factors that promote ill health. Okay, so when we say indicators, class, okay, World Health Organization defines indicators as variables which measure change. Okay? All right, so indicator is a variable which gives indication of a situation or a reflection given of that situation. Health indicator is a variable susceptible to direct measurement that reflects the state of health of persons in a community. Indicators help to measure the extent to which the objectives and targets of a program are being attained. Okay? So, we will be studying, okay, if our programs under the Department of Health is achievable, if we have met our objectives, and what are the indicators that our community is healthy. Okay, okay? So health status indicators measure, okay, we can measure if our programs are doing well, okay, because there would be less prevalence of illnesses. Okay, so health status indicators measure different aspects of the health of a population. Examples include life expectancy, infant mortality, disability, or chronic disease rates. Health determinant indicators measure things that influence health. Example, diet, smoking, water quality, income, and access to health services. Okay. So characteristics of indicators of health and illness, they should be valid, okay? They should actually measure what they are supposed to measure. They should be reliable. The results should be the same when measured by different people in similar circumstances. They should be sensitive. They should be sensitive to changes in the situation concerned, reflect small changes in health status, and they should be specific. They should reflect changes only in the situation concerned. Feasible, okay? They should have the ability to obtain data when needed and relevant. They should contribute to the undertaking of the phenomenon of interests. Okay? So, uses of indicators of health, measure of the health of the community, description of the health of the community, comparison of the health of different communities, identification of health needs and prioritizing them, evaluation of health services, planning and allocation of health resources, and measurement of health successes. Okay? So, because we can compare if last year maraming nagka-heart attack, baka this year wala na because or lessen na because we conducted a health program, okay, that will help, for example, exercise for all, okay, and then we can identify what our people needs and we will prioritize, okay, it is based on prioritization, so ano yung uunahin, okay, and we can measure if our programs will be successful, right? So, classification of indicators are mortality indicators, okay? Morbidity indicators, disability rates, nutritional indicators, healthcare delivery indicators, utilization rates, indicators of social and mental health, environmental indicators, socioeconomic indicators, health policy indicators, indicators of quality of life, and other indicators. Okay, so mortality indicators. Okay, so crude death rate. Okay? So crude death rate, no? This can be found in your Maglaya, okay? And then your Famorca books. Okay? So crude death rate, this will also come out in the board exam, is considered, okay, it is considered a fair indicator of the comparative health of people. It is defined as the number of deaths per 1,000 population per year in a given community, okay? Usually the mid-year population. And the usefulness is restricted because it is influenced by the age, sex composition of the population, socioeconomic and sociocultural environment of the community. So, for example, crude death rate in India is 6.3 deaths per 1,000 population. Okay? So, may death talaga namamatay na 6 or 7 persons or people in a 1,000 population. Okay, so you can just see that illustration or diagram. So, medyo marami-rami ang namamatay sa urban areas compared to urban areas kasi walang accessible, hindi accessible ang transportation, hindi accessible ang hospitals. Pagdating mo, waray na oxygen. Okay? Patay na. Alright? So, mahilig pa naman tayo sa um, nandyan na yung mga kailangan, pero wala, yung aanhin pa ang damo kung patay na ang kabayo. Alright? So, um, okay. So, expectation of life, the average number of years that will be lived by those born alive into a population if the current age-specific mortality rates persist. So, it is a statistical abstraction based on existing age. Specific death rates highly influenced by the infant mortality rate where that is high, estimated for both sexes separately and good indicator of socioeconomic development. Okay, so life expectancy at birth, male is 67 years old, female is 70 years old. Okay, so the longer, it's not a problem if we live long for as long as it is a healthy and a happy life. So, okay, uh, we can live up to 100 years. Okay, so infant mortality rate, okay, this is the rate given in a year to the total number of live births in the same year, usually expressed as a rate per 1,000 live births. So, indicator of the status of not only infants but also whole population of socioeconomic conditions, sensitive indicator of availability, utilization, and effectiveness of healthcare, particularly perinatal and postnatal care. Okay, so siyempre, class, no, may mga nanay or may mga infants na namamatay because they were not vaccinated. Tapos, pagkaanak pa lang, hindi na injectionan ang nanay ng anti-tetanus toxoid. And then, nagka-infection pa yung bata. Okay? So, in India, for example, there are 33 newborns or infants in 1,000 live births. Okay? Right, so you can see that infant mortality rate. Okay, so child death rate, okay, the number of deaths at age 1 to 4 years old per 1,000 children in the same age group at the midpoint of the year, and it correlates with inadequate maternal child health services, malnutrition, low immunization coverage, and environmental factors. More refined indicator of the social situation in a country than infant mortality rate. Okay? So under 5, mortality rate defined as annual number of deaths occurring in under 5 age group expressed as a rate per 1,000 live births reflects both infant and child mortality. This is a best single indicator of social development and well-being rather than the GNP per capita. Okay, so current rate in India 37 per 1,000 live births. Okay, because some will be drowning. Okay, some will be having some accidents. So hanggang 5 years old lang. Okay, so maternal mortality ratio, total of number of female deaths due to complications arising during pregnancy, childbirth, or within 42 days of delivery from puerperal causes in an area during a given year per total number of live births in the same area and year, accounts for the greatest number of deaths among women of reproductive age in developing countries. Okay? So, syempre, yung mga hindi maka-afford ng check-up, okay, mahal ang magpa-private OB-GYN or private gynecologist or, you know, yung iba nga, hindi makapa-prenatal sa midwife, okay, sa doctor pa kaya. So, yun, isa yun sa reason why we have a high maternal mortality. Okay? So that is the trend in maternal mortality ratio. Okay, so disease-specific death rate is mortality rate which is computed for specific diseases. So, for example, tuberculosis mortality is 22 per 100,000 population per year kahit may gamot na. And then proportional mortality rate is the proportion of all deaths attributed to the specific disease. So, example, coronary heart disease causes 25 to 30% of all deaths in developed world. Kasi hindi um, hindi maka-afford ng pacemaker. Okay? Pacemaker cost 250,000 pesos. Okay? And then, hindi din maka-afford ng bypass operation. It cost 1 million pesos. Okay? Mga stent sa heart. Okay? So, mamamatay talaga. Pwede pa sanang mabuhay. Okay, so case fatality rate measures the risk of persons dying from a certain disease within a given time period and measures the pathogenicity, severity, or virulence of the disease. Okay, so years of potential life lost, okay, defined as one that occurs before the age to which a dying person could have expected to survive. Okay, so based on years of life lost through premature death. Okay, so kung waray la iba nga problema, we are expected to live until 70 years old. That is our lifespan. But, oray, 30 years old pa lang, nagkaka-cancer na. Okay? So, di ba? That is a life lost. Okay? So, morbidity indicator. So, morbidity, okay, is any departure, subjective or objective, from a state of physiological well-being. So, morbidity indicators reveal the burden of ill health in a community but do not measure the subclinical or inapparent disease states. This means all right, so incidence, the number of new events or new cases of a disease in a defined population within a specified period of time. Number of new cases of specific disease during a specified time interval. Okay, so yan na, 30 and may asthma. Next year, nagtigda man, 60 and may asthma. Okay, so we will be studying what happened, no? Why is there an increase of incidence or there is a new case of a disease? So like right now, there is an incidence of COVID and we never had COVID virus in the last 100 years. Okay? That is incidence. Right? And then prevalence refers to all current cases, old and new, existing at a given point or period of time in a given population. So, prevalence of current cases existing at a given point or a period of time. Okay, so we have point prevalence, period prevalence, reflects the chronicity of the disease. Okay, all right. So there are, okay, results of screening for diabetes. So we have 1,000 women. Okay, we will be screening 1,000 women. And then when we screen them, we have 40 cases and the 960 are free from diabetes. Out of the 40 cases, 5 have died, 5 have migrated to other countries, 5 have recovered, and there are still 25 cases. Okay, so uh, 20 cases are new, for example. So there is 940 cases, or there are 940 people free from diabetes. Okay, so there will be attrition, prevalent cases on December 31st. Okay, so ganun siya. Alright? So, notification rates is calculated from the reporting to public authorities of certain diseases, example, yellow fever, poliomyelitis, and they provide information regarding geographic clustering of infections, quality of reporting system, attendance rates at OPDs and at health centers, admission, readmission, and discharge rates, duration of stay in hospital reflects the virulence and resistance developed by the etiological factor. Spells of sickness or absence from work or school reflects economical loss to the community. Okay, so kasi if you are a public health nurse or a community health nurse, please be careful because in reality sometimes we try to hide the realistic statistics. Okay? We try to hide factual information. So alam mo yung feeling na may namatay na bata. So, para diri ka kadtuon ang Department of Health, tinago mo ang namatay na sa statistics. So, example, COVID, di ba? There could be a lot of people who has had the virus, but titig the gugutian mo la. Okay? From the reality. So, instead of saying na there are 1,000 cases of COVID, 500 na lang para magmukhang maliit. Okay? So, do not do that. You have to be honest or else magkaka-outbreak kita. And a lot of people will die. Okay? So, report honesty kung pira ang namatay nga nanay kay due to postpartum cases. Okay? Pira ang namatay nga babies you have to state that. Okay, be honest, right? And you have to make reports. And kasi class example, example would be pregnant women. Even if a pregnant woman had a private doctor for her prenatal, ililista mo pa rin yan na pregnant siya. Because if anything happens to the pregnant woman and walang lista ang midwife or ang public health nurse, no, the PHN, you will be asked because that woman is part of the community where you are serving. Okay, so part hiya han aton community. So isa hiya kung sa attendance pa, isa hiya ha mga burod na burod presently. Okay, burod yan na. Okay, so um, either public or private clinics, iglilista mo ito nga tanan. Okay, because amo liwat ito ang imon tatagan hin vitamin A. Tapos i-follow up mo kay ang mga babies for vaccination. And then may mga follow up check up. Okay? Alright, so disability rates. Disability rates are of two categories, event type indicators and person type indicators. So, number of days of restricted activity, bed disability days, work loss days within a specified period, and person type indicators. So, limitation of mobility, example, confined to bed, confined to the house, special aid in getting around, and limitation of activity, limitation to perform the basic activities of daily living or ADL. Example, eating, washing, and dressing. Okay, so syempre, pag disabled ka na, di ba? O may mga bagay na hindi mo na magagawa. So, we will modify things. Okay, so HAIL. What is HAIL? Health Adjusted Life Expectancy. Okay. So, life expectancy at birth but includes an adjustment for time spent in poor health. So, number of years in full health that a newborn can expect to live based on current rates of ill health and mortality. So, HAIL for India is 53 years old. Okay, so for example, no, you were born, um, you had a baby, right? and then the baby had meningitis before the baby reaches 1 year old. Okay? So, meron, meron yung complications. So, there would be years where the child will be spending his or her life in poor health. Okay? So, in order for the child to adjust, okay, that is why we have HALE, health adjusted life expectancy, na kahit na you are having a poor health status, you can still live. Okay? You can still live life and you know, enjoy the things that we have on earth. Okay? Hindi pwede na, ay, may cerebral palsy, papatayin na lang, no? No, we have to respect life. Kahit na may cerebral palsy ang isang bata, still that is life. Okay, we have no right to kill anyone. So, give that child a right to be born. Okay? So the dailies or disability adjusted life years, so it is defined as the number of years of healthy life due to ill health, disability, or early death. It is the simplest and the most commonly used measure to find the burden of illness in a defined population and the effectiveness of the intervention. So two things needed to measure dailies are life table of that country to measure the losses from premature deaths, loss of healthy life years resulting from disability. The disability may be permanent, like polio, or temporary, TB, leprosy, physical or mental. So, DALI, years of life lost plus years lost to disability. Okay, so, for example, no, at 20 years old, nagtrabaho ka sa factory. Ngayon, kinain ng makina ang kamay mo. Okay? So, na-disable ka. So, that's already a lifetime. Tapos, wala ka pang retirement niyan. Wala ka pang health insurance niyan. So, how many years of life lost and added to the years lost to disability? Okay, so, 20 years, healthy ka, and then, uh, up to 60 years old ka pa mabubuhay kasi kamay lang yung nawala. Okay, so years of life lost, okay, 40. Okay, and then plus years to the loss of to disability plus 20 years. So, yung ganon, yung um, kung sana, di ba, hindi ka na-disable, you could have still done more. Okay, so ganon na logic. Okay, so uses of dailies to assist in selecting health services, priorities to identify disadvantaged groups, targeting health interventions, measuring the results of health interventions, providing comparable measures for planning and evaluating programs, and to compare the health status of different countries. And one DALI is one lost year of healthy life. Right? So, KALI or quality adjusted life year, commonly used to measure the cost effectiveness of health interventions, number of years of life that would be added by interventions. So each year in perfect health is assigned a value of 1 down to a value of 0 for death. Okay? So Sullivan's index refers to expectation of life free of disability. Sullivan's index life expectancy of the country, probable duration of bed disability, and inability to perform major activities. Okay, so it is considered as one of the most advanced indicators currently available. Okay? So, yung bedridden ka na. Okay? So, um, Sullivan Index refers to expectation of life free from disability. So disability free life expectancy, active life expectancy, average number of years an individual is expected to live free of disability if current pattern of mortality and disability continue to apply. Alright, so nutritional status indicators. Okay, so for preschool children, weight, okay, height, mid-arm circumference. Okay, so height, sometimes weights of children at school entry, prevalence of low birth weight less than 2.5 kilograms. So, yung mga bata na premature, okay, most probably, they will, plus malnourished pa. So, most probably, when they grow up, okay, when they grow older, baka sila din yung mga bata with low weight. Okay? So, fertility indicators. So, crude birth rate, fertility rate, general fertility rate, age-specific fertility rate, total fertility rate, reproduction rate or gross reproduction rate, and the net reproduction rate, sex ratio at birth, pregnancy rate, and abortion rate. Okay, so can you just imagine kung maraming baog, okay? Kung maraming magpapa-abort, kung marami din namang buntis. Okay, so there should be a balance with everything. Okay, so fertility indicator because um, what is the use of our resources kung walang tao? 'Di ba? Kaya ang ganda-ganda ng New Zealand kaso mas marami pa ang baka kaysa sa tao. 'Di ba? So people are the best resources still. So um, we need, people who will also give us a lot of babies. Okay. So birth rate, number of live births per 1,000 estimated media population in a given year, and the general fertility rate, number of live births per 1,000 women in reproductive age group in a given year. So usually, ang healthy talaga magbuntis 35 years old below. Okay? And then total fertility rate, average number of children that would be born to a woman if she experiences the current fertility pattern throughout her productive span. Okay? And net reproduction rate, the number of daughters a newborn girl will bear during her lifetime. So, new net reproduction rate will be 1 if two-child norm is adopted. Okay? So, healthcare delivery indicators. These indicators reflect the equity of distribution of health resources in different parts of the country and of the provision of healthcare. So, the frequently used indicators are doctor population ratio, doctor nurse ratio, population bed ratio, population per primary healthcare or subcenters, and then population per traditional birth attendance. So, can you just imagine 50,000 na pasyente, no? Or 50,000 na population, tas isang doktor lang. Maraming sakit yan. Then doctor-nurse ratio, one doctor, one PHM. One doctor, two PHM. And then 50,000 patients. Okay? So population bed ratio. So supposed to be if we have a 50,000 population, dapat ang hospitals natin should have at least, di ba, 100 bed capacity. Kasi paano pag maraming magkakasakit or at least 500 bed capacity or 10% of the population. So if it is 10%, 50,000, then we would be having 1,000, di ba? But even, okay, EVRMC, we have 1,500 bed capacities. Ilang tao tayo sa buong Region 8? Yung ganun ba? Right? Okay, so utilization rates. Actual coverage is expressed as the proportion of people in need of a service who actually receive it in a given period, usually a year. Okay, depends on the availability and accessibility. Okay, so examples. You may read the examples and then indicators of social and mental health. Okay, so as long as valid positive indicators of social and mental health are scarce, it is necessary to use indirect measures. Okay, for example, indicators of social and mental pathology. So these include rates of suicide, homicide, other crimes, road traffic accident, juvenile delinquency, okay, alcohol and substance abuse, domestic violence, battered baby syndrome, etc. These indicators provide a guide to social action for improving the health of people. Social and mental health of the children depend on their parents. Example, substance abuse in orphan children. So, kaya class we have peace and order. Okay? Kasi dili pwede nga damon addict a society. Kasi damon marire. Okay? Damon mamamatay. Okay? Dili pwede itong juvenile delinquency. Kasi 'di ba? People who are into drug racing, they could have a better future, but they chose to drug race and they died early. Okay? So, road traffic accident. Okay? Namatay dahil na aksidente. Kung kailan siya naging registered nurse, nahulog pa yung kotse sa bridge or nasagasaan or na nabangga. So, things, no? Accidents. Right. So, environmental indicators, we have already explained that. So, potable water, good condition of the environment, sanitation facilities, and you will still learn more on it when you study environmental science. Okay, and then socioeconomic indicators, right? Okay, dependency ratio, health policy indicators, okay, indicators of quality life. So, physical quality of life index, all right, human development index, okay, social indicators, basic needs indicators, okay, so you may review that one, and then special indicator series, okay, so yung just read that, no, health for all, kung ano yung mga indicators for the provision of healthcare, we have already explained that, so this is just a sample. Okay, so Millennium Developmental Goals Indicators. So we have 8 MDGs, and that will be thoroughly discussed to you in later chapters. Okay, Sustainable Development Goals, to the right, and Global Reference List of Core Health Indicators. So that will still be on the next chapters. Okay, so summary: health not measured directly but using indicators. Indicators should be valid, sensitive, specific, reliable, relevant, and feasible, and used in measuring, describing, comparing, identifying health needs, and planning and evaluation of health services. Okay, health not measured directly but using indicators. Indicators should be valid, sensitive, specific, reliable, relevant, and feasible, and used in measuring, describing, comparing, identifying health needs, and planning and evaluation of health services. Okay, so no single comprehensive indicator of a nation's health, and each available indicator reflects an aspect of health. So search for a single global index of health status. Continuous use of multiple indicators, arranged in profiles of patterns used to make comparisons between areas, regions, and nations. Okay, so these are the references. All right, so thank you so much, all right, for your time, and hopefully you have learned something. Okay, so usually due to the pandemic that we are experiencing, I have to share my slides, so you have a copy, you can print that one, and please keep notes. Okay, we are studying that you have to have your ledgers, okay, or notebooks, so that in every lecture, remember, there is no rewind or no replay next year. Okay, so you have to take down notes, because community health nursing is um, exam 2. Okay, it is a major nursing subject. Okay, so whatever it is that you will learn, you have to you should not forget it. Okay, especially if you really are interested in community health nursing. So for today, I wish you all a happy Friday. Have some time to relax as well, and at the same time do some advanced reading. Okay, so once again, this is Nurse MJ, and I am glad to be part of the CHNT. Okay, have a great day, everyone. Bye bye.